Hey guys, got a bit of a mess under the deck lid here, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about the fuel pressure that I'm working with and monitoring that. As you can see, I've got a regulator installed and it runs. This is, by the way, is my big bore 40 horsepower engine that I've lately fitted with an alternator, and I've got this angled fuel pump, and the top connection to that fuel pump is the inlet that's coming from the front of the car, the gas tank, which I've got a filter installed between the front of the car and the back. And then the pressure side of the pump is this bottom rubbery looking line that runs back up to the input of the regulator. This regulator is a quick fuel technology. I think the part number is 30-804, and it used to have a nut on the adjustment. I think that must have vibrated off. At any rate, lately I've not been seeing fuel pressure that I'm satisfied with. I don't know what the output of this pump is. I want to say it's probably 4 to 4.5 psi, which is a little too much for my 30 pict 1 carburetor, and that's the reason I've installed the regulator. The regulator I like to keep about 2.75, 2 3/4 psi feeding my carburetor. And to help me keep a check on that while the car is running, I've got this, it's several years old now, this little 1.5 inch VDO fuel pressure gauge. And I've got a blurry focus here, but the low end of this is of course 0 psi, and the high end that it reads is 15. And I've been toying with well, number one, I need to fix the problem that I'm seeing. The problem that I'm seeing is that the pressure is not reading right anymore. Either the gauge has gone bad or the regulator itself is out of its adjustment range. And I've just purchased another regulator that I'm going to install, and I wanted to put a little different configuration when I do so. I'll probably still keep it mounted to the fan shroud. But now I've got another regulator and another, I've got a 3/8 inch thread to 1/8 inch NPT fitting, and a gauge. I've got a Holley fuel pressure gauge that's about the same size as the VDO. It's 1.5 inches. It's probably just a relabeled VDO, or VDO uses a relabeled Holley, though I doubt that. It's probably the former. The Holley uses the VDO. But anyway, I want to install that and see if, number one, I can get my pressure dialed in at its previous 2.75 psi, and then just play around with the configuration of the regulator and the gauge. So more in a second. I'll show you what I've got in terms of the new regulator. It looks exactly like this one. It's the same part number, but again, I've got another gauge and I've got a fitting that I'm going to try to work with. I'll probably use the same bracket. The new one came with the bracket, but I don't think I'll need that. I probably could have purchased a spring kit and gone and played around with this old one, but I just figured they're cheap enough that I'd just grab a new one, keep one on hand and one for maybe a backup or something. Anyway, more in a minute. I'll show you the new parts that I'm working with. Alright, here's the box that the new regulator came in. It's also quick fuel 30-804. It is a low pressure regulator, 1 to 4 psi. And to support that, here's that fitting I was talking about. It's a 3/8 inch male to 1/8 inch female, and another gauge. This is that Holley part number, I can't focus it here, 26-500. It's a 1.5 inch diameter, 0 to 15 pound per square inch gauge, and it came with a fitting. I don't know if I'll have a use for that or not. It might be useful. It's a 90-degree elbow, but more in a second here. Let me get the regulator out and kind of assemble it and show you guys what I'm thinking of in terms of how to install it, the new setup. All right, more in a second. Thanks. Okay, here is the semi-finished product of the new regulator, and this one has the nut on it to secure the adjustment. That 3/8 to 1/8 fitting, the 90-degree elbow that came with the Holley fuel pressure gauge, and the gauge itself. And so theoretically, when I install this one, it will sit like this against the fan shroud, and I can see the gauge. It's a little bit neater than the current rat's nest of fuel line with the gauge installed into a T, which feeds the carburetor. The only thing that I see that might be a problem, the neatness aspect of it is a no-brainer. I would like to do the new configuration I just showed you. The only aspect of it that I might worry about is the vibration factor. These little gauges, I have not experienced it yet, but they are said to not be terribly reliable. And I think any vibration, might be something that contributes to their demise. I suspect there's going to be a lot more vibration against the fan shroud solid mounting than there would be with this braided line. So I'll have to toy with that. I'll go ahead and install it and show what it does, and we'll take it from there. All I can do is try it. If it doesn't seem to work, then I'll go back with this configuration, but more in a bit. Let me get this set up, installed, and I'll be right back. All right, here we go. This is basically the end product. I've got the new regulator installed. Instead of having the fuel output on top, now I've got the gauge, so I reconnected the fuel output onto the bottom. Still getting fed via the same line. Going back to the fuel pump, pressure side of the fuel pump, and I want to start this up and hopefully dial this engine fuel pressure in at about 2. It's really hard to see, and I apologize. I got to get a new camera. I keep saying that, but one of these days I will. 2 3/4 pounds per square inch. So let me go fire it up and we'll see what it's doing here. More in a second. Alright, just a tick too high here. Sitting at about 3 psi. So let me take my little adjustment here and turn it. I've got the nut loosened, and see if I can bring it down. Seems like turning it inwards raises the fuel pressure, and turning it outwards lowers it. So I'm going to bring it down to about right there. 2 3/4, and in my estimation, that's perfect. So I don't have any leaks, and I'll call this a wrap. I'll keep you guys updated on how it runs with the new fuel pressure setup. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks guys, take care, have a great day, God bless. Bye-bye.